and I think it's interesting, and I have probably gone through this myself, that some people would rather put a ton of effort into creating and launching a product than finding out if anybody wants that product to begin with.
What's that about?
I don't know.
This is the Sales Bible Podcast, episode 261, How to Conquer the Conversation in Sales, an interview with Erin Marcus.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers, and today's guest is Erin Marcus. Erin's a speaker and a consultant that teaches you how to create powerful and extraordinary conversations. See, this is the thing. Each day, there are consequences to the conversations that we have. When they go well, they lead to closer relationships and more sales and happier customers. But when they go poorly, the consequences are hurt feelings, lost money, lost opportunities, and more stress. So today, Erin and I discuss how to conquer the conversation in sales. We dig into what it means to be masterful communicators and ways you can increase your sales and improve the relationships with your existing clients. So, with no further ado, let's get to it. Welcome, Erin. You ready to babble?
Absolutely.
We've already been babbling quite a bit. We've been talking about puppies. Oh, you've been telling me puppy tales.
Yes. Horrible puppy tales. Horrible puppy tales.
But that's not what we're going to talk about today. Actually, we're on Sales Babble here, and we're actually going to talk about talking because when it comes to sales, that's what they think sales is all about. But usually in the context of being slick and glib and outgoing, that's not really true anymore. And that's what you're all about, right? Is about building relationships.
Yes. Very different approach to sales.
That's what I thought was so interesting about you. I was looking at your LinkedIn, and you actually talked about something what you call the impossible conversation. What's that?
Well, the impossible conversation could be different to different people because everybody has things they're good at and things that they're not good at. So it could be a sales conversation. It could absolutely just be a general sales conversation that freaks you out. It could be delivering bad news as part of your sales process or as part of working with a client, because sales isn't just getting a client, closing a deal. Sales continues through your relationship so that everything goes as everyone would like and leads to more sales and referrals. People who have to deliver difficult news as part of their client procurement. That's a seemingly impossible conversation. And how do you handle things like that? So when I say an impossible conversation, it's different for everybody, but in your gut the second that you're approaching what it is for you.
On your LinkedIn, I actually get the sense of, and from us chatting before, we were talking a couple of weeks ago, that you want to have these conversations actually on a regular basis. What's that about?
Yeah, I learned, honestly, through working with seniors. I have two parts of my career, both my corporate background and the business that I owned, had difficult news as part of my sales process. And I worked with seniors for 6 years, basically delivering all sorts of bad news and things they didn't want to hear and things they didn't want to deal with. And what I learned was using the difficult conversation done the right way kind of put me in a better position because it made me a trusted advisor. It made me somebody they could count on. And that really has become, even in other circumstances, my approach to sales.
You said you had two lives. One was the seniors, one was with...
Well, I've had at least two lives. Let's see. The other one I was referring to, as I get older, I forget how many lives I've had. But that one, I was a senior vice president of a long-term care insurance company, which meant I was working with financial planners to sell long-term care insurance to their clients. And that had several layers of difficult in it because, one, the financial planners didn't like selling the product because it was complicated. And the clients didn't like talking about, A, that they would need it, and B, how expensive it was. So there was all sorts of difficult conversations going on there.
Yeah, so I could think there's any number of listeners here on this podcast who sell stuff that people really probably don't want to buy, but they need to.
Yes.
And that's what this conversation is really applicable for. I'm getting the sense that having a difficult conversation with somebody that they really don't want to have, but they kind of know they need to have.
Yeah. There's a lot, and it's even, there's the category, like you mentioned, where they know they don't want to have it, but there's also a whole lot of people who serve their clients through a challenging process. Like realtors, I work with a lot of realtors, and you might know you want to sell your house and you might know that you want to buy a new house, but very few people look forward to the process of doing all of that. So even though you might be excited about it and the clients might be excited about doing that, the process of it can be difficult.
I could totally identify with that myself. I've gone through that.
On which side? All sides.
Yeah, I've often thought about selling my house, and I'm like, oh.
And then you look around and you're like, I can't even fathom getting through the process.
Right. I've been there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I've been in the same house now for 34 years. but I think about selling
it. To have to sell it.
And I think about selling it all the time, but oh.
But think about it. How would you respond then to a realtor who, instead of just trying to get you to sell your house, solve the problem of getting you through the process? Now suddenly that's a different relationship. If they weren't talking numbers to you, but instead asked you questions about what you were worried about so that they could find out what your concerns were and then provide solutions for those concerns, little by little, maybe it's not so scary anymore.
I get it. I can get that. So why don't you walk us through your process of having one of these difficult conversations?
A lot of it's funny because so many of my clients, or when I'm giving presentations, people are like, but tell me exactly what to say. I need to know exactly what to say. And difficult conversations start way before the actual conversation. The things that will trip you up in difficult conversations is your real intent, your underlying intentions. Being human, your intentions of wanting people to like you. Suddenly now you don't want to say something that upsets somebody, so you sugarcoat it. And in my work with seniors, I'll tell you, if you sugarcoat something, they're going to hear exactly what they want to hear. And I imagine that's true for a lot of people. So now you're kind of using euphemisms and soft language because you're concerned. And you're leaving leaving space open for interpretation. It's the connection that allows you to have a difficult conversation. It's your coming from a place of service, not a place of, I need to close this deal. I always say, the two things that will screw up anything so quick is desperation and insecurity. And if you are desperate for a sale where you need to have that client because that bill, the money coming in from that customer is going to pay that bill, you're not going to be able to have a difficult conversation coming from a place of authentic service because that's not where your headspace is. A difficult conversation is about listening. It's about asking questions until you get down to what the real need is. And then providing solutions for it for the client. The insecurity part is what screws up your sales because you'll make concessions when you really shouldn't have. That goes back to needing people to like you. Or you'll avoid the difficult piece. In my work with seniors, I saw that happen with my team a lot, not because they didn't know better, and not because they couldn't do their job, but they didn't want to even further upset our client who is already going through a difficult time.
Yeah, I can feel that. I can feel what you're trying to get to. It's not about. It can't be about. You said this like 4 times, and it's worth underlining. It's not about them liking you.
No, I can't tell you how many times my clients ended up hating me because of what we were going through. But at the same time, it's one of those love-hate things. They hate me because what I represented, but they love you because you're able to get them through something that they know they need to get through or solve their problem.
Okay, so let's walk through here. So you said it's all about listening and asking to the real need.
Yes.
How would we do that?
It's open-ended questions.
Such
It's
as,
open-ended questions. I often start with, tell me what's going on. Why did you invite me to this conversation? So it depends on what you're doing. Now I am a speaker and a consultant. So now my open-ended questions are, tell me about the event that you're putting together. What is it what's your goal? And
Right.
let them get talking. Same thing with my clients. Why now and why me? What's going on that triggered the idea that you're ready to hire somebody to help you achieve this?
Right. Right. Why now? Why me?
Why now and why me? Because that's going to tell you two things. It's going to tell you what help they're looking for, but it's also going to give you some insight as to what they like about you so that you can showcase it.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you think of a funny example where you've asked these questions and you've got an answer that was surprised you?
You know what's funny, and it doesn't translate as well over a podcast. But
Want me to get the hand puppets out? I can.
exactly. Here's the thing. I'm 5 feet tall. I'm little. I'm getting older. I weigh a little more than I used to, but I'm little. And yet, people, when we meet in person, they kind of just know I'm in charge. And, going back to our earlier conversation, I think it comes from all the work I've done with rescue dogs, because it really is that calm, I don't react, calm confidence. Because here's the thing, when I worked in rescue with police confiscated dogs and court cases, reacting to the dog gets you bit by the dog. It's the calm, confident, nothing you're going to tell me is going to throw me. And so I get a lot of response for that. The other thing is the asking questions. I have learned that I will close more sales by asking a better question than by giving a better answer. Mostly because I'm freaking myself out before the conversation ever happens if I'm obsessed with what I'm going to say. But if I just have a list of questions, something's going to happen that triggers a connection. You and I have been talking about my horrible experience this weekend at the puppy shelter. And, how random, if you just ask questions and ask what's going on, we're all people. We're all gonna find something that relates to the other person to build a relationship on, to make it more fun to be with the other person.
Funny you say this because I was actually talking to Brian Robinson, who's going to be on the podcast, or by the time we publish this, may have already been on the podcast. And he was saying something along the lines of about having a bunch of questions in line, about being really organized. And he's not the only one who's like this. I get people on this podcast, Erin, of both schools of thought. It's all about being really prepared with a bunch of questions, with almost like a playbook. But there's other people out there say, it's all about mindfulness and having the right mindset of listening.
Mm-hmm.
How do we balance these two?
One of the things that is in my daily practice, my little gratitude journal, is plan for the future, but be present in the moment.
Plan for the future. Hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on. Plan for the future. Be present to the moment.
Yes.
I like that.
I would love to accredit that to somebody. For the life of me, I can't remember where I'll tell you it's original. I'm sure I'm not the first person who has said it. But it helps me a lot because my mind races. I get very excited. You can tell I talk quickly. I can move quickly. I do need to remind myself to slow down. All the years working with seniors and waiting to listen to their answers, That's the other thing. You want to get some practice at listening. Work with seniors because their answers, you'll never be able to predict what they're going to say to you.
Really?
They come out of left field sometimes with things you think you know, but they've had so many experiences that you don't know what they're going to say.
Huh. Interesting.
It was, I mean, selling to somebody who, like that's where you really learn about making the relationships. But yeah, it was about having a good list of questions, but that doesn't mean you go through them like when you go to visit the doctor, height, weight, that's not what it's about.
It's not a checklist. No.
It's not a checklist. Thank you. It's not a checklist. I have my questions that I need answers to, but I also have my relationship building questions that can start conversations. As we can tell, I tend to speak pretty well. I don't usually get stymied for conversation, but you never know. If I'm nervous, then it's good to have them at hand.
You're a public speaker.
Yes.
What kind of advice do you usually give people when you come to the end of your talk? What do you want people to walk away with?
What do I want people to walk away with? Circling back to sales and business, I want people to realize what it's costing them by avoiding the conversations that they don't like having, or not being good at the conversations they need to be good at. When I give my presentations, I ask people in the beginning to think to themselves, what conversation are they not good at? So it might be asking for referrals. That's a big one with financial planners, realtors, a lot of people. They don't, it gets uncomfortable. How do you ask for referrals? So think about it. What's your average client worth to you? Maybe you could get 2 referrals a month. So double what that average client is to you. And now spread that out over a year. And that's how much money you're losing because you're uncomfortable having a conversation. And those numbers start to add up real quick. And now if you add in the hours spent from anxiety, maybe not sleeping, maybe on Facebook, which is like the number one enabler of avoiding what you should be doing, right?
We could talk for hours on that topic.
We can do a whole nother podcast.
Oh, I'm Rob Murray. I'm in a bad mood about Facebook these days.
And if you think about that, you start to realize what's going on here. You could literally, I've worked with people who could double their business by solving one conversation they didn't like having. And the other thing that is written on my personal whiteboard, action cures fear. Action, my business is called Conquer the Conversation. My other side of my business is called Conquer Your Business. As I mentioned, the funny part, I'm 5 feet tall. I also have been a competitive power lifter and a boxer. I like to meet things head on. And action cures fear. If I could get my nerve up to do it once and then realize I didn't die and then do it again, it's funny how it doesn't take that many times and then you're not scared of it anymore. You might not be great at it yet, but you're not scared of it anymore. And that's a big deal.
When I started selling, I remember giving these presentations and thinking, I got them all to say, yes, 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 this looks really good. You want to get an order form? You want to move forward? And they're going, yes, yes, yes. And then we would shake hands and I'd walk out and I'd go, oh, thank goodness they didn't ask about that one problem we have. They didn't ask about that problem we had. And then lo and behold, something would happen in a week or two where the deal went sideways and it maybe didn't go at all. And I learned from that I didn't want to have that difficult conversation.
Right.
What I learned to do is, what I learned instead to say is like, I want to make sure we got everything covered. Is there anything I'm missing? Is there anything that you think this may not be a fit? Maybe we're not the right idea for you guys. And then all of a sudden, sometimes things will come up. And they'll go,
Right.
"Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up." And then you kind
Right.
of explain it to them. And they go, "Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, okay."
Right. Now, and they're also giving you your best market research. I
Yes.
think that was a big mindset shift. There we go. For me, was to look at sales conversations and marketing efforts. It's all research. It's just getting results. So if I'm doing something that's a 4-step process to try to get new clients, and first step got great response and second got great response, but the third step didn't do so well, that's just results. Now I know that third step needs work.
This is what I do for a living.
Right.
When I do consulting, people come to me, Pat, I don't know what to do. I've been stuck. I don't know how to go
Where are
forward.
you stuck?
And then I'm thinking about what you're saying. Action cures fear.
Yes.
So the first thing I do is I put them in action. What do I have them do? We're going to do some market research, just like you said. Let's go out there, get in some conversations. Let's do some market research. And all of a sudden, it's just going to work out.
It just, and I think it's interesting, and I have probably gone through this myself, that some people would rather put a ton of effort into creating and launching a product than finding out if anybody wants that product to begin with.
What's that about?
I don't know, because I've done it and I stopped doing it, and I don't know why. I don't know how I got so lucky I'm sure I read I read as much as I can get my hands on, that I at some point went, oh my God, they're right. It's just results. Why would I want to spend 4, 6, 8 months creating something if I don't know anybody wants it?
Yep.
And it goes back to being tied to the outcome instead of the relationship.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir when it comes to here. And the sales babblers have heard me pontificate on this before, so it's not like
We're not annoying them with a sudden change in direction.
Yeah.
Who are these people and what are they finally talking about? Yeah.
Erin, how can people find you online?
Find me online, erinmarcus.com, ErinMarcus. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, Erin Marcus. I think it's Erin Marcus, speaker, author.
I saw you just got a terrific testimonial on LinkedIn.
Oh, that was from Lori. I was very excited. I helped Lori launch a business 3 years ago. And she reached out to me 2 days ago because she's run into problems. I think that 3-year mark is always very interesting. Actually, my client this morning as well. Look at all I've done. This is great, but you kind of did it by accident. And about 18 months to 3 years in, depending on the business, is when you realize you need a strategic plan. So yeah, I was excited to hear from Lori again.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to give away to the Sales Babble listeners?
Sure. So I have a download. It's on my homepage of my website. You just got to scroll down. I think it's on the bottom right now. Again, it's erinmarcus.com. And I put together, it's just a handout, the top 10 tips for making hard conversations easy.
Oh, good.
And if the hard conversation for you is sales, if it's talking to your father about not driving anymore, I think that was just I saw that on the news this morning. What's his name in England? The prince gave up his driver's license after he crashed his car. It works. My disclaimer is always that it doesn't work with teenagers. I can't help you with that. It does not work with teenagers. The good news is this works in business as well as your home life. Whatever a difficult conversation is for you, there's a way to approach it that will make it more comfortable for you until you get overall comfortable with the idea. So there's 10 different ideas in there on how to approach things.
I love it. Very good. Awesome. Well, Erin, I'll make sure and put those links in the show notes.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for visiting us here in Sales Babble. This has been fun. It's been very fun babbling with you.
I'm a good babbler.
Sometimes we have to give bad news to existing customers. Other times we have to attend difficult sales calls in a competitive situation. Sometimes you have to explain why the price is going up, and other times why you can't meet a commitment. Many times I've been in a difficult conversation because we, the sellers, we're the face of the business, and we have to apologize for things, even if it's not our fault. It's a lot of responsibility delivering bad news. These kinds of conversations can make or break a business. But being pushy or assertive, that's just the result of desperation and insecurity. Instead, if we can see that all sales is research and that you're going to learn something one way or another, there's no reason to fear the conversation because, as Erin says, action cures fear. To connect with Erin and to get her 10 tips on difficult conversations, you can go to the show notes at www.salesbabble.com/261. If you got a question or a comment, don't hesitate to ask. Go to the home page. Right there's a button called Babble Me, and come and ask me. While you're there, you may also notice that I've got a number of free ebooks. I'm writing these ebooks this year. My plan is to have 20 of them done by the end of the year. And if you want to look at those, you can download some of those. You're welcome to do that. They are topics like value propositions and storytelling and cold calling and LinkedIn selling. Lastly, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends. I would deeply appreciate it. That's all I've got for this week. Until next week, folks, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.